News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce. What the Food and Drug Administration throws out, we throw in. Test the breaking point of your stomach lining with Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce. No pains have been spared to not spare your pain. Try Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce tonight.
You know, Max, I think we're going to pass on that one.
I got acid reflux, so I can't help you with that there.
Well, this is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. I'm Allan of Joe and Allan. Joe is, I think at this point, sound asleep.
He's indisposed currently.
He is indisposed. Well, he had a lot of we'll say on assignment personal issues to deal with this week. So I am being joined this week by Max, not behind the glass. So we're going to let you in the studio this week, Max.
Finally.
And I'm also being joined by Scott J. Carroll. How are you doing this morning, Scott?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
Awesome. You know, well, we're awake really early on a Saturday.
We are. It's, you know what? It's for you.
Well,
I'm doing
thank
this
you.
for you.
Well, that's good because I know where you live. And we're also being joined by a dear friend of mine, Bobby Hodge. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful this morning. Wonderful.
All right, good. Well, guys, guess what? You've been coerced into Tool Talk for the next 2 hours.
Oh no!
You poor things.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're going to dive into a few things. Scott, we're going to cover a topic near and dear to your and my hearts. We're going to talk about tree limbs.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we can tell some stories there. Bobby, me and you are going to talk a little bit about 30 years of stupid. Oh, yeah.
All right.
I've got a special segment I'm going to call The Last Disaster, and I'm not going to tease that much beyond there. And we're going to ease into the world of being a handy person. What's it like to go to that big box store the first time? Why are we here? What are we doing? But before we get to all that...
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
Throughout time, there have been occasions to mask what we were up to. For instance, the Dread Pirate Roberts masked himself because the Dread Pirate Wesley just wasn't going to scare anyone. We also mask and tint our windows to prevent allowing in too much sunlight. Children wear masks at Halloween to collect candy. And if Joe Thorntonson had masked his true intentions at the last meeting of the fan group, Cubs Legion of Obsessive Delusionals, or Clods, he would have made it out of there with that nice fruit basket. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are going to be proud to salute masking tape. All right, let's...
No extended monologue. Just short, sweet, and to the point with insulting Joe.
I thought you would enjoy that.
That's the Allan insult. The Joe insult takes like 5 minutes.
It does. I'm kind of a meat and taters guy. We're just getting right to the plate. Just going to move right in on that. I did a little checking because, Bobby, you and I go through 9 or 6 miles of masking tape a week.
Yes.
Yep. Easily, right? Easily.
Easy.
So the history of masking tape, I thought this was very interesting because I knew it was a 3M product. And it turns out that it wasn't, I had kind of a cool thing because I'm going to tie it into motor mouths for a moment. Because it's actually originally an automotive product. There's a gentleman by the name of Richard G. Drew, and he was kind of in the field selling stuff for 3M and was at a car shop in the 20s. And as he was there, they said there was a explosion of profanity. Because, welcome to the roaring 20s. Things were going really good, and people were now able to afford a vehicle. So a lot of people were getting a vehicle, and of course, as I'm going to look around, and it goes, and as men generally are, if you don't want the same model that everybody else has, right? You want something a little more special. So a lot of artists were getting into pinstriping and custom paint jobs. And they were using butcher paper. But the tape they were using was so wasn't designed for any of this, would actually accidentally peel the paint off if it wasn't done just right. So he promised them, and I love the explosion of profanity as some poor artist was trying to edge this tape off, and it shredded his paint job, that he would invent a tape that they could use for pinstriping. So it took him like 2 years and he tried a wide variety. It's kind of like he walked into the kitchen and went, all right, is this even mildly sticky? Can I use it as a tape? And he ended up using, of all things, and it made perfect sense when I looked at it, he was working with like linseed and chicle. Well, have you ever heard of chiclets?
Yeah, the gum.
It's this chickle's the sticky stuff in chewing gum. And then he was diving into vegetable oils and crepe paper. And now suddenly I went, and he actually came up with what we consider today to be masking tape. Just sticky enough, but not so sticky it tore your paint or whatever off. And back in the 50s, they had a big deal when they had sold their 2 millionth roll. And I'm sitting here thinking, that was a lot of tape in the 50s. They sell about that much a month now. So, the masking tape of congratulations. Wow. I can't imagine trying to do a lot of the paint jobs we do these days. Bobby's nodding. Lean in, Bobby. It's a huge product for us, isn't it?
You can hardly mask your excitement.
Oh, but there we go. So we're going to. So with masking tape, fair play 3M. It's wonderful. We use it a lot. We use it for everything. And if you just need to temporarily hold something in place, hold it where it wants to be, or you're going to do that wild paint job in the living room. Yeah, as I look up and go, we've seen some pretty wild paint jobs over the years. So masking tape, welcome to it. So this is Tool Talk Radio. We're broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. And if you'd like to send us a message at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, you can reach us at 901-683-0989. So how we doing, Max?
Pretty good so far.
Not bad. Not a bad way to get the day started.
A decent replacement Joe.
Oh, well, I have the hairstyle for it.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot. Changed my life. Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And this is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. And if you'd like to send us a message this morning, you can reach us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Well, this is Allan, and I'm being joined by Max, Bobby, and Scott today. So we just got to be talking about masking tape. And, of course, the moment you turn off the microphone, everybody has their best story. So, all right. Now, Bobby, you had a friend that did what?
I had a friend, and he's an older gentleman.
So he's my age.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. He's much older. And I went over one day, and I was looking at him. He had this masking tape, and he was taping off, what he was going to do with his truck. So I'm like, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to paint. I said, are you? So he brings out a gallon of latex paint and a brush. And he painted the whole truck with it. And he painted the truck. I said, that's not going to stay on there. He said, yes, it will.
What time of year was this?
Man, I think this was probably in the 90s.
Yeah, but this was summer?
It was during the summer.
During the summer,
He
so
pulled
this
in the
paint job
backyard.
was going to last about, 4 hours?
They pulled in the backyard. And he painted that truck sky blue with some latex paint and a brush. But he used masking tape to tape it off.
He did. And I'm sure it looked good when he got done.
Good.
Masking tape was the best part of that job.
Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing at him. He said, "What's funny? Look how much money I saved." I said, "Okay."
It sounds like a story for the motor mouths and everything. Botch car paint jobs that went horribly wrong.
I'm just sitting here thinking it probably looked great until the next day at 90 degrees in the afternoon when it rained, and it just slid off like a snake skin.
Sky blue puddle around the truck.
Yeah,
Man, this guy was something. He figured he could save a few dollars doing that. So
All
he
right, well,
did.
This is where we're going to get into the proper tool for the proper job. and for those of you out there listening, looking at the car going, no, you don't. No, don't.
No.
Don't
You
go
just
there.
don't.
Don't go there. So,
Like, I don't even paint that much, but my grandfather owned a painting business. And
Okay.
he taught my dad. And Dad taught us. And even, like, the little bit I remember, you don't use latex paint on a car.
well, I mean, it might be like, one of those Dick Tracy movie ways of disguising the car real quick.
Yeah.
And then that way you could just grab it and peel it off later.
Vinyl decals are cheap.
I mean, okay, well, I'm just kind of sitting there going, all right, now what would be an application? Nah, never mind. All right, I'm going to pick on the proper tool for the proper job. And for just a second, we're going to digress and we're going to talk for briefly about Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Because it is that time of year, and roofing is one of those things where I've seen a lot of jobs like your friend's paint job. I hate to say it, but this time of year, and we're going to talk about this a little more later, tree limbs do fall. We had a lot of wind this week. Tree limbs fall, things hit your roof, things puncture your roof, things happen. There is a time to DIY. And there is a time where you need to call somebody. And when you got a tree limb poked through your roof, do not think you're going to get up there with a can of, what is that, spray fix it in the can? That is not going to take care of that hole. So you need to call a professional. I'm going to say call Jay Hill over at Big M Roofing and Remodeling. They're GAF Master Roof Installers, and they will even provide a lifetime warranty for your roof. So... as a
lifetime transferable warranty too.
It is. So if Max, you buy Joe's house, you get his warranty.
That'd be the ultimate power play. I buy Joe's house.
And you can see by the glee in his face that this has now crossed his mind. So
now you're behind the glass, Joe.
So. Well, I tell you what, let's digress on into tree limbs since we brought that up. Yesterday, Scott, you and I were at a location yesterday.
Yes,
so I'm going to pick on and go. We were actually working together yesterday.
We were,
and I'll let you tell the story.
Okay, it's the end of the day. I'm on my way out the door. I've got my little backpack, my little stuff with me. I go to walk over to you just to say, have a good weekend, And we're standing there, and you look out the window, and I hear you go, oh, that's a problem. So in my head, I go, that's 20 more minutes. All right. Oh, no, we look out the window, and we see a massive tree branch had snapped and had fallen down onto some patio tables.
Yes.
And it had still been attached to the tree where it snapped. So we both go outside and we're looking at it, and we're just standing there looking up at this, what is it, like 50 foot long branch?
At least.
And probably
this was a very big tree.
It was. There's about 30 seconds of silence before we go, Sawzall?
Sawzall.
All right, I'll go get it. So I trundle off to go grab the Sawzall. I come back, and you're trying to manhandle the thing.
Well, I got the table out from underneath it, and I kind of got it more or less positioned where we could safely, and I'm going to throw in the word again, safely deal with what is the granddaddy of all widowmakers.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's obviously going to come down because we're still getting some pretty good wind. And, of course, the temperatures are going up and down. So obviously it was up. It's now coming down.
And the branch was about 5 inches diameter. So it would have.
Yeah, it was a serious branch.
Yeah.
A serious danger.
Oh, yeah. So we grabbed the Sawzall, which you have been kind enough to be teaching me how to use lately. Which I feel like is something we'll get to.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. We're gonna ease into that becoming the handy person here in just a little bit.
And we were able to saw it out. And you had lined it up perfectly the way we had done it. We sawed it in just the right spot to where the lower half fell. And then the part that was still attached to the tree fell. It was vertical. It had just started to tip pretty much towards me before it fell right back against the tree and was nestled against it.
Yes.
And we were able to safely knock that thing out to where it needed to be.
And, finish cutting a little here, a little there, and then go set it safely off to the side so that, we are not worried about, somebody walking under that tree at this point.
No.
So I'm going to bring this up this time of year because it's a great time without the leaves to get out there and take a look and see. And I am never going to advocate anybody go play arborist.
No.
You'd have a Sawzall and all that good stuff, but now is a great time to start doing what I call the backyard physics. And you need to look at that tree. And one thing you need to really consider is your tree lopsided. And a lot of people are kind of like, well, I don't know what you mean. Here's what I mean. Walk around it. Get about 20, 30 feet out from a tree and walk around it. Is the tree symmetrical? Or does it lean more to one side to the other? Because being here in the Mid-South, storms generally all come from the same direction. So if the wind blows good enough, it's going to lean one way or the other. Now, is it leaning out towards the street? Or is it leaning towards your house? And if it's leaning towards your house, is the tree symmetrical? Because how the tree stands, if the wind blows a certain way, that's the direction it's going to go.
That's right.
Also, if the tree is lopsided and we've had a lot of rain, that's the direction the tree is going to go. So now is a great time, ladies and gentlemen, to go walk around your property, look at your trees, and kind of go, maybe we need to trim this up just a little bit.
Before you become the butt of one of our other next jokes.
Well, yeah, it's a friend of mine down in New Orleans from the hurricanes had a tree laying on a roof. And it took quite a while because of the amount of damage for people to get to her. So when they finally got there and they got the tree off, they tarped it. And a few weeks later, they came back and they started replacing the roof. But by then, guess what? The ceiling caved in.
They need Big M roofing.
Yeah,
if only he worked outside of
if
Tennessee.
He was down there in Louisiana. So, guys, the trees and things dropping on the roof are pretty serious. You need, especially this time of year when you don't have to look through all the foliage, it's a great time to get out there, walk around, see what you got to deal with, and if necessary, get hold of a professional. You don't want to be out there climbing around the roof. So, all right, well, I hope we're being professional enough for all of you this morning. This is the Tool Talk Radio, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's why Joe isn't here today.
I was about to say, this is Tool Talk Radio with Allan and Max. So
Let's just say I took care of business this morning.
Oh.
Don't trust me with a Sawzall, folks.
Well, we are broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. And we'll also be brought to you shortly by somebody's mausoleum. So, well, I'm gonna tag off of that, Max, and say, well, if you left a mess You need to call Mike Serafolian over at Tri-State Interiors because you're probably going to need a new kitchen by now.
Everything.
Well, all right, let's talk nice about Mike for just a moment. Tri-State Interiors, and they are truly a tri-state. They work in Arkansas and Mississippi. Basically, if you can hear our broadcast, they are willing to come down and help you out. Tri-State Interiors has, well, really kind of the state-of-the-art ability to help you with your kitchen or bathroom. They have full 3D modeling. And I love to tell people, I know you're thinking about remodeling the kitchen, you're thinking about remodeling the bathroom, because let's face it, and everybody in the studio is nodding with me going, these are the most valuable rooms in the house. These are the places that make or break your sale, make and break your money when it comes to your house. And, they get dated. I live in a house built in the 60s. You believe, well, Max, your house goes back to the 50s or something or so.
Around that time.
Yeah. And they get a little dated. It's time to update them. Well,
What, you don't like that tacky 50s design?
Well, it doesn't matter if I like it. Do you like it?
Does the next homeowner like it?
There you go. They're willing to pay for that. Well, you can get hold of Tri-State Interiors at 901-409-1333. Get hold of Mike Serafolian. And unlike Joe, I do know how to spell his name.
Thorderson is an equally difficult last name to spell, though.
Yes, it is, which amazes me about that. So call Tri-State Interiors, and I'm going to look back at my guys and go, all right, you guys have been giggling now for 3 minutes about tree stories. And everybody's going, oh, my gosh, there was this tree that, and I'm going to look at Scott and go, all right, so this tree that.
There's a few. One of the ones I know, like most recently, is my wife's parents just before Hurricane Ida.
Right.
Because they live down South Louisiana. They had a tree that had rot that they were looking at and going, we should probably get rid of that. And they finally got people out to come take it down, and there was rot from the top all the way down to the stump.
So this was probably an oak.
Yes, it was.
It had black, the black fungus.
Yes, it was.
That will hollow out a tree completely.
It did. There was a little family of frogs that were living inside of it.
Wow.
Our little terrier liked to go and chase the frogs.
Okay. Well,
so we took down the tree. She lost the frogs, unfortunately.
Well, at that point, the frogs moved.
Yes.
So.
But had they not taken it down, because it was, like you said, lopsided. And
okay.
Had they not taken it down when Hurricane Ida had hit, that would have fallen on the house.
Easily.
So the equipment that they brought out for it, it was just fun to watch.
Okay.
They had the massive, massive stump grinder that came out. And these guys in an afternoon, this one massive oak tree, just gone completely. And they may or may not have left the cat in the backyard unattended. If it wasn't exactly in the same position it was the next day when they came to pick it up, but it was in one piece.
So you might have played with a little heavy machinery. I may or may not, is an unconfirmed rumor.
So anyway, I think
that the caterpillar had moved a foot or two.
Sounds like a setup for either a comedy or a horror story.
Why not both?
I like your attitude.
I have funny stories. Sometimes I sit and I think about them. And there was this one guy. He was an older gentleman again.
Okay.
And they had a big tree. It's an oak tree. It was in the front of the house. And he had a lot of limbs that fell off the house.
Right.
So he said, I'm going to cut this one down before it falls. Okay. Take it in. It was a big limb. So he got up and he cut it the wrong way. And it fell on the house.
Oh, no. I think there's an entire category at YouTube of how not to cut down a tree.
Yeah.
Because, there's that little bit of wind at that magic moment just before you think the tree's ready to go. And it goes, I think I'm going to go to the left.
Well, you and I were cutting down a tree. We were cutting down a tree.
I knew I was triggering it.
We were out at a property cutting down a tree.
We were doing a land clear, right?
And there was a little garden off to one side.
Yes.
And
that I planted.
That
I put there. This is my fault.
We were looking at this tree, and you had set the cut up and I said, do we want to get some rope just so we can, like, guide the tree down? And you went, nah, it'll be fine. And I went, okay.
30 seconds later.
It fell directly on the garden. It smashed. How many different planters did the tree hit?
Well, the really funny part was it only actually nicked one and fell right between two. It just dropped it. I mean, it was a razor cut drop, and it was just at that magic 30 seconds of, we're going to drop this right where we mean to drop it. It's going to go exactly the way we want it to go, and the wind just went. Nah, let's get your attention. Touch. And it wasn't even that hard of a win, but it was just enough at that moment.
Mother Nature's really sassy.
Oh, Mother Nature has a sense of humor beyond belief. So I tell people, again, now is a great time to get out there and go walk around the property, go walk around the house, and don't get directly up under, especially if you've got really large oaks.
No.
Don't get directly underneath them after a big windstorm. Kind of walk around them and look up in there and see if anything has been broken loose and if it's laying on top of the other limbs. We refer to those as widow makers or widower makers, depending upon who's standing under the tree when that thing comes down, because they do come out with, we'll say, enthusiasm. There's nothing quite like going in your backyard and finding a 4-inch round branch stabbed into the ground like you had been in a Avengers movie and somebody went through your tree.
Have you ever seen trees when they actually uproot?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I was driving to work one morning. I think it was a Storm Elvis.
Mm-hmm. No, that was a few years ago.
Yes, and I was driving the road and I saw this big tree. Come out the ground.
Oh, you saw it tip.
I was looking at it. I was driving
my
toward
goodness.
it,
yeah.
And it went up in the ground and just fell in the street. All the way across the street on another house.
Mm.
I said, oh, so that means I can't go this way.
Well, for those of you listening outside of Memphis, we're not known for our driving ability in this city.
No, you're not.
And so says the guy from New Jersey. No, you people can't drive. Bobby, I can just see you looking at that going, and we're turning around now. We're going to go back the other way. I don't even think a Sawzall is going to help much at that point. No. I will confess, about 25 years ago, during one of our, every 10-year ice storms, a huge pine tree got covered in ice and didn't break. It just came down on top of my truck.
They'll do that.
So it looked like a giant pine-scented trebuchet wrapped around my truck.
Trying to talk to you.
And I had to go to work. So what ended up happening with a Sawzall and a machete and an attitude was I ended up kind of tunneling my truck out of the pine tree.
Wow.
Just kind of cut a door in it and kind of went through, backed my truck out. And the hilarious part was, a week later when the ice was melting and everything was falling off and the tree straightened up, it looked like somebody had taken a bite out of the cupcake. I'm not sure that tree ever forgave me. So it was just the worst haircut it could ever have been given. So
It hires out its tree siblings to exact revenge on you.
They've been walking around behind us for a little while, trust me. Tree safety is a big thing. And, next I think we're going to wander over into 30 Years of Stupid since we're telling stories here. So this is Tool Talk Radio. We're broadcasting from the Round Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. And we'll be back in just a bit.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The likelihood of you dying violently within the next 5 minutes is 87.61%. You are about to get me killed. We will both die because of your negligence.
News Talk 98.9.
Are we still getting Joe's messages?
Perhaps, or maybe it's just me being negligent with the Sawzall again.
I have this horrible image of him running loose through his backyard. just getting Sawzall happy there. But I got to admit, Sawzall is one of those tools. Once you learn it, it is one of those game-changing tools because now imminent destruction is just not a problem.
Folks, you thought that masking tape was the salute of the week, but it's secretly the Sawzall.
That'll be next week's salute. So, well, this is Tool Talk Radio. We're broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis. And let's go ahead and let's talk, since we're talking about roofs and trees and weather and cold and heat and all of that good stuff, let's bring up Brown Refrigeration and our good buddy over there, Larry Brown. Brown Refrigeration is kind of a one-stop shop for your HVAC and heating needs. As I emphasize the word heating, as it was like 20 this morning or something like
18.
that as we were 18. If I ever mentioned how far south I'm really from, 18 is a bad number. It just
And if you're from up north, it's a light summer.
Yeah, well, Scott's over laughing at me as he's over here wearing like a sweater and shorts. And
I'm from Jersey. What do you want?
I'm from below Houston. It's just like 18 is something that happens on the Discovery Channel. That's like Arctic explorers have that. So
Oh no, it's when it's 18 outside, your mom goes, grab an extra sweater. You'll be fine.
Grab an extra sweater. Oof. Oh my gosh. The word frozen it's a Disney movie, really. So if you do have any heating or HVAC needs, get hold of our buddies at Brown Refrigeration. The other thing I'm going to throw in is they also sell smart home systems, which is amazing. So on the way home from work, you can reset the temperature to be just fine from an app on your phone. And they also carry the Remy Halo system. So all of us having worked, with pandemics in our lives for the last 2 years, this is a great way of getting the biological stuff out of the air in your HVAC. So that's Brown Refrigeration at 901-362-1881, or you can see them on the web at brownref.com. So trees, sawzalls, weather, destruction, which is going to bring up kind of a 30 years of stupid for me. Of been involved in a house demo job recently, and they're wanting to put in a shower. They're wanting to add a shower to this house, and it is elevated. It's not a slab, so it's got the floor, the subfloor. It's got the crawl space underneath and all of that. And what we're dealing with is about 70-year-old technology. So whoever put in the original floor, put in a beautiful slat floor, very nicely done. Apparently nails were plentiful at this time. So there's a nail about every 4 inches. Honestly, it is amazing the number of nails.
It was the fad at the time. Just nail everything, everywhere.
Well, as the running joke was, they had everybody has that one cousin that's not really good at anything but driving nails, and apparently they had custody because there's a lot of nails in this. But then you meet 80s technology over the top of the 80-year-old technology where somebody went in with particle board.
Oh, no.
And again, they had the cousin with the nails. And so we're trying to free up this one tiny little spot so that we can put in modern flooring, so that we can put in modern moisture control and get ready to also support the weight of a shower and tub. Because, I love to tell everybody, the bathroom is the heaviest spot in your house. And as I'm telling the homeowner, there is no law that says you cannot overbuild. If you have a question, is this going to support it? Do we need an extra cross beam? You know what? Go ahead. If you have any doubt in your mind, Bobby is nodding like a son of a gun because I'm going to have him tell some stories here in a second. I'm getting into Bobby's wheelhouse now. If you think you need a little extra support, there's no rule says you can't have it. Right. And if you think you need it, go ahead and do it. But getting this just small piece of flooring loose was almost a legal action. You should never have had to hit anything this hard that many times with anything that heavy to make it come loose. And it was just, I mean, nail enriched does not begin to cover the 30 years of stupid from when they went back in and put in particle board over the top of this thing. So,
sounds like the guy driving all the nails.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like he had a nail machine gun or something.
I wish
every 4 inches.
But these weren't uniform nails. It was like he just had a box of nails, and there's a 4-inch nail and a 2-inch nail and a 3-inch nail, and it's just like somebody just gave the kids a box of nails.
I just wonder how many times did he hit his hand?
I just.
Well, that's why the bathroom's the heaviest part of that house. It's where all the nails are.
Yeah.
No, it's the metal to wood ratio in this particular story was just horrifyingly astounding. I mean, well, we finally got this one piece out, and my only comment, as you know, we got it pried up and we flipped it over and we're sitting there looking at it, and I actually just went, you know what, having done a lot of work out, we're talking rural in the country, like the little log cabin in the woods kind of things. Mm-hmm. And I have had occasion working in East Tennessee of building something called a bear board. Now, this is not something the average person will ever see or ever run into, but for those of you who have a cabin somewhere like the Smoky Mountains or over here in Arkansas up into the Ozarks, there are bears. And, we may not have big, giant grizzly bears like, Yellowstone, but a black bear, 300 or 400 pounds, you know what? There's nothing on your house or truck that can stop him. If he wants that box of Krispy Kreme, he's going to get that box of Krispy Kreme. And if you're locking your cabin up, a lot of times you'll take a board, some kind of weatherproof board, and you'll drive a lot of nails and screws through it and attach it below a window. And that way, if a bear walks over to your cabin and tries to get into it, the theory is he'll step on or see this board and leave it alone. So we're taking this piece of flooring up, and for all the world, the only thing I could think of was, we're not that far out in the country. I don't think bears under the house were a problem here.
Look,
but
man,
it
the
looked
60s
like
were a
it.
different time.
Bears behaved differently. They were more free.
Yeah, it was good. Now, I have had, I've got friends in Pennsylvania that have sent me pictures from under their deck where, and this is kind of a critter war story that I never want to have personally, but they would hear something moving around under their deck and they would well, obviously a critter has moved in with us. So they call the wildlife control people. They come out and they stick a camera under there to show them the bear living under their deck. All I got to say to that is no, 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 and no. We have raccoons and possums and squirrels and the occasional snake. On rare occasion, we've even had a few coyotes loose here in Memphis. But I do not ever want to stick a camera under a deck or in something and see a bear looking back at me. That's just, at that point, I'll be in the truck. Y'all can come get me. So welcome to 30 Years of Stupid, where, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we advocate. Joe and I always advocate, do the right thing with the right tool at the right job. Because people shortcut a lot, don't they, Bobby?
A lot. And I see so many things that could be done better.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. But, that's what they know. And they just take it and go with it. I've seen, and it's funny, I saw a guy working on his car. I don't know what he was doing with a pipe wrench, but he was working on his car. He was looking.
I can't think of anything in there or under there that required that.
Yes.
But if that's what you got, I guess sometimes you got to get creative.
You know, he had this pipe wrench, and I'm like, what are you doing with the pipe wrench? He said, well, I couldn't find my other wrench. I said, what other wrench? He said, I was looking for a crescent wrench. I said, what crescent wrench for? And he said, well, it worked. I got it loose. I said, what?
Well, I hope he did. Was he taking the engine loose?
He was taking the front end loose.
He took the whole motor mount off.
Come on, man. I thought you was a mechanic. I am, but that's all I had.
Well, now see, here's my problem with doing stuff like that, especially like around like a hot water heater.
Yes.
Because, you know, Bobby, you're a boiler man, and those things are under pressure, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
They can burst, can't they?
Yeah.
I saw one. I was in one doing a property review for somebody, and walking through the house, walked downstairs, walked into the little laundry room, mud room, and the seam on the hot water tank was bowed out like it was, let's just say, in a bad way.
No, that's not good.
And of course, the person looking to buy the home is kind of like, well, do you just put a strap around that or what? And I'm like, no, this needs to be unplugged immediately.
Or duct taped.
Yeah. No, we don't have enough time today to go into duct tape stories. Because
that's why I'm behind the glass usually. They don't give me the tools.
Oh my gosh.
Duct tape helped me pay for college.
There's a story there I don't think we can tell on the air.
We don't have time for it.
We don't have time for that one either. So let's wrap up this little segment about hot water tanks and if you don't know what you're doing, don't DIY with these things.
Let me tell you a little story about a water heater. I'd asked the guy, he was working on a house, he was helping me. So I went to Home Depot.
Right.
And
went to the big box store.
Yes, and I asked him, I said, drain the water heater so we can replace it.
Right.
When I got back, water everywhere. I said, why did you drain the water heater all over the floor? He said, well, you said drain it. I said, hook a hose to it. Well, you didn't tell me that.
Oh
my God.
The horrible thing is that happens. Sometimes you got to be a little more specific with the instructions because it's almost speechless. Is look at this and kind of go, that happens. It just, people just literally take what you say exactly
and do that
and run with it. So I hope you're running with us this morning. This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis. And we'll be back with more of this silliness in just a couple of minutes. All right, welcome back to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis. And we're having a pretty good morning here, just having a little reminiscing, giggling, pointing fingers at each other, going, do you remember when you did this? I'm going, yeah, I know. Well, oddly, it's a lot of them giggling and pointing at me. So, in a lot of ways, we're just having a normal, everyday show, aren't we, Max?
Perhaps. We're down at Joe, and I think I know why. I think I gave him that nightmare in a bottle, and he's got an ulcer now.
Don't feed him things like that. You get past Wonder Bread, it scares him. He's not the biggest foodie in the world. You know that.
Unless it's shaped like a Chicago Cubs thing.
Well, he does have his Claude membership pins.
That is fair.
That is true. So, speaking of being a foodie, we're probably worst transition I'm going to do today. Speaking of being a foodie or not being a foodie, I'm going to bring up Chef Genie, who has joined us wonderfully. And I got to tell you, Scott, you're going to be excited about this one.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to look you dead in the eye on this one.
All right.
Cindy Williams over at Chef Genie designs probably the finest kitchen arrangement devices ever.
Okay, yes, I'm in.
So, the spice cabinet that is completely overfilled suddenly has not only the trays that pull out, but also pull down to eye level.
Oh.
Or the pot and pan sorters that not only come out of that dark corner back there that you can't reach, but slide out and pull out. So Shelf Genie systems are absolutely amazing. So if you're like me and have a little trouble getting down to the bottom cabinets and stuff like that, this is a great idea. If you're a foodie, a kitchen person, this is a great idea. If you are looking to rearrange the bathroom, make it a little easier to get to the things in the linen closet, welcome to Shelf Genie. So they can get hold of Cindy Williams at 901-422-8225. And this is one of these things where, honestly, go take a look at this. And of all of our partners will be at the Home Show of the Mid-South on the last weekend in February, the 25th through 27th. Also, there will be, I hate to tell you, Max, there will be a Tool Talk radio booth. So
he's very excited. for that.
I love the look of, So, yes, if you'd like to meet me and Joe, we will be there in person.
The emphasis is if you would like to.
Well, I'm sure you can avoid the booth if you want to avoid the booth. So, welcome to Shelf Genie. Now, I'm kind of talking about Shelf Genie first because it's organized and wonderful and all of these great things. And let's face it, with the three of us, we do not make a living out of things being organized and wonderful.
No.
Oh, Bobby woke up for that one. Nope. People don't believe a lot of the things we walk into. Really, honestly. I mean, this happens to me all the time. We'll be out at a show somewhere, and someone will just walk over and go, I do not believe somebody drained a hot water tank in the house without a hose. And we all have to kind of go, no, really. They did. No, really, they did.
They did.
I remember walking into an office park one morning, and the entire ceiling was on the floor. Because for some bizarre reason, when they designed these offices, they put lots of those little micro hot water tanks above the ceiling. And it worked good for a while, till one of them fails and utterly and completely soaks all of the offices below there. We talk about periodically checking on your hot water tank and making sure that the drain pan is clean. And people are kind of like, why have I got to check this? It's in the attic. It's in that little storage room there off to the side. And it is because if these things begin to drip or leak, that pan is designed to catch that, and there is a drain in it. And that drain needs to work.
It needs to work.
Or the water is going where, Bobby?
It's going down.
It's going everywhere. It's going every place you don't want it to go.
You don't want the attic to come pay a visit to you down below.
And I'm going to quote one of your father's, or I'm going to pick on my father's stories. And just because it's got a drip, don't wrap it in something and hope. I'm going to pick on, I'm actually remembering my father and the word duct tape. You brought up duct tape earlier, Max. There was that corner that always had that little drop of water on it. So he got up there and I got to admit, it looked like a boxing glove by the time he got done. And basically what he had done was create a duct tape balloon. And it was months later, when the balloon gave.
Oh.
Because that one drop of water every so often apparently was appearing under pressure and probably protest and was expanding this more and more and more. So I'm sure by the time this thing burst, it looked like a wasp nest. And, that one drop of water became a couple of gallons. And, it just doesn't play well with sheetrock. That's all I got to say for that.
It does.
Yes.
Speaking of ceilings, it's been, I will say, around 15 years ago. I went to a friend's house because they were having leaks.
Right.
And so the game was on. We were watching basketball game. And his mother was laying on the couch.
Oh, no.
His dad was sitting in his recliner chair. So I was sitting on another sofa they had, and we all was just watching the game. We were rowing at the game. And all of a sudden, the whole ceiling fell. Boom.
Everybody got wet. Everybody got hit.
I mean, the entire ceiling.
Just gave.
It's just
the whole thing. Just
it's
at
been
one
leaking
time
for so long up there.
It had finally just, So this is what I like to say, guys. It's not going to heal. It's not gonna get any better. So as these things happen and you discover them, this is why it is so important to be attentive, pay attention, and go look. I hate to say it, you hear a little bump in the night, the bump's probably not going to go away. So this is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. And we'll be right back with a little more of, well, you better go check on that.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I've been going door to door looking for fire hazards. Mind if I give your place a little inspection?
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
And Scott, don't look at me like that. Like you're having a flashback. Listen to that. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Allan every day. Oh. This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
What are you talking about? This is Full Talk Radio for right now.
And we're going to continue with the line of questioning here that goes, you probably need to go check on that. Because we run into that a lot. And, I'm going to throw in the handyman question of, did you try to fix it yourself first before you called me? Because now I need to figure out what you did. And then we're going to tie into 30 years of stupid, because I may have to figure out what the last guy did. And sometimes if you get around some of these really good antique homes, you got to figure out what somebody did in 1905. So it can get very interesting. I was working downtown, working on setting up an art gallery several years ago, and we were going to be sanding floors and stuff like that. And Bobby, is one of these where I looked at someone and I said, okay, make sure we turn the air conditioning off. And the crew looked at me in horror, like, no, we're not turning off the air conditioning. We don't want to get hot. All right. Yeah, you do. Because we're going to be kicking up about 400 pounds of sawdust. And air conditioning systems and man glitter do not get along very well. No. Yep. So this is the time of year of, it's January. We're heading, March is just that far away. And that's that great spring cleaning time. So I'm going to say, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is your 45-day notice that you got about 45 more days before it's time to change those air filters. Well, we've been in winter all year. Bobby, what happens to those things all year?
Well, they collect.
They collect.
It's a collector side.
All right, and here's the scary part. You know what they've been collecting all winter? You.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of these little facts that, like, somewhere between 70 and 90% of the dust in your house
goes to your filter.
Is you. It's your skin. Mm. Your skin, your hair, your dander. And, of course, if you've got pets, there's no shedding or anything there. You got kids, well, there's no shedding or anything there. So, yeah, a lot gets collected in those filters. Now, what happens, Bobby, when you reduce the airflow?
When you get a restriction.
Okay.
That means the airflow that you were getting when the filter's clean, it cuts down. It could cut down to 50%.
Okay. Well, what does that actually make happen to the AC unit?
Well, you have trouble breathing.
And that's the key word. These things actually are designed to breathe,
right,
to move a certain amount of air within a certain time period.
And it pushes out.
Right.
But if the filter stops, it's having trouble breathing. Just like we got sinus problems.
Right.
Well, the unit has a sinus problem.
And it's working harder and
Yes.
producing less.
Yes, and you are increasing your utilities.
Okay. And that's a big one. Let's grab everybody listening by the wallet and go, that $2 filter,
Yes.
if you're not changing it, can be costing you a number of dollars, far more than the price of the filter, every single month on your electricity bill.
And you can't buy Claritin for your AC.
No. We wish we could on occasion. So, and of course, the harder you work something, the more you're wearing it out. And right now, I'm going to bring up the R22 thing of what happened to R22, Bobby?
Well, it was supposed to destroy the ozone.
Right.
So they had to pull it off the market.
Okay.
Of course, we still got some.
Well, we're still using it. There are a lot of R22 units still out there everywhere.
And we're still using it. So.
Well, but if you're wearing it out too soon, you're going to end up buying a new unit.
Yes, and you're costing a lot of money because if you're losing it and you got to replace it, the stuff is so expensive, you eating your pocket up.
Yeah, it is amazingly expensive.
Right.
To put
they do
gas
have
in the
alternates that they use out to replace it or to blend, what they call blends. They're using that now. A lot of people are using that. But it's not like R22.
Not as efficient.
No.
Doesn't do quite the same job. So this is one of these little cautionary tales where, a couple of bucks here and there can save you some pretty big money later down the line, especially because if you have to buy a new unit these days, you're honestly having to buy.
Yes, you got to replace it all. Pretty much.
Exactly.
Because all of it works together, especially if you got a split system.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
You got a split system.
Split systems with your condensers outside and you got your furnace and coil inside.
Right.
They all work together. So if you change the refrigerant, you got to change your coil. So.
Both have to agree. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, welcome to. It's not a bad idea to go check those things. So
you probably should check where your stuff is. I was working at a facility, and there was a closet in a room, and we had opened the doors because this closet had not been opened in a while.
It'd been a minute.
Yeah. We open the doors, and I see in the closet there is a unit, which has the little gas symbol on it. It was the air.
So it's an air handler.
Yeah.
Air handler closet. Okay.
It has a little gas symbol, a little fire symbol on it.
Okay.
And then I looked at all the other stuff that was packed in this closet.
As homeowners are prone to do, it's an empty spot, so we shoved.
Well, they shoved the least flammable things in there. It was clothes and books.
Oh.
Did you have your Flonase?
They had packed this closet about 4 feet high of clothes and books with, the open flame. And
the other problem is these things need to breathe. Once again, Bobby brought up that it needs to breathe. He's dying laughing over here going, well, that furnace wasn't heating very much, was it? Because it's got a little intake on the front.
Exactly.
And there's a reason when you go through your house and you find this little closet and it's got your air handler in it, there's a reason it is that size. It needs about that much air to comfortably operate. And keep in mind, the only fresh air it gets is what it sucks in around the door or through the vents.
Yeah.
So the other thing I find in homes a lot, especially homes built in the 70s, they'll have the air intake will be usually someplace fairly inconvenient for the decorator down by the floor. So there is now a bookshelf in front of it. Well, once again, you can't breathe.
No.
It's a little like being held down and having somebody put a cloth over your mouth.
What books did they put on there? Did they put How to Run Their House?
I did find a copy of Catcher in the Rye. We actually lived in for a while when we were living in New Orleans. We lived in it was a 100-year-old house that had been elevated very poorly, but it still had the floor intake. So all of the air was coming through the floor, and all they did was pick the HVAC and just put it up on some cinder blocks, and they didn't reattach it right, and it was sucking in from inside the house, but also from under the house.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
There was no moisture, mold, dirt, camel crickets, or anything else under there. So
No, not in New Orleans.
not in New Orleans. There'd be nothing living under there at all.
No.
No spirits.
Just some bears.
Yeah, just some bears. I don't think you have bears in New Orleans, but you know.
Bayou bears. I don't know.
Well, if the Cubs ever move to New Orleans, you'll have Bayou Cubs. So they'll just Joe will have little Bayou Cubs all over the studio. So.
Yeah. How about a lady called and asked me to come by? She heard something in the closet. I said, "What closet?" So I got there. It was the closet for the air handler.
Okay.
So I opened the door, and there's a raccoon sitting there. He was eating something. I politely closed the door back.
You didn't want to disturb lunch at all, did you?
He's busy in there. I said, "You call wildlife.
Call control.
I'll come back."
Yeah.
Terribly sorry to interrupt. I'll just leave now.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
You thought the client was in charge. It's the raccoon the whole time.
Oh. I'm thoroughly convinced if they ever figure out car keys, we've had it in Memphis.
Oh, my goodness.
They're way too smart. They're way too strong. And they got hands.
And they have the will.
The funniest thing I ever saw was a cabin that had been utterly and completely trashed. Nothing left in the cabinets. Everything in the entire building completely on the floor. Flour and stuff everywhere. You would expect to find, if the dog did this, the dog would be completely coated, right? We caught the villains. There were 2 raccoons standing in the middle of the kitchen, completely clean. Not a speck on them. Lots of little footprints, mind you. But absolutely, and they were looking at us like, you were lucky we were here. You should have seen what happened in this place. So.
If you need someone to cover up a crime, call the raccoons at 901.
Well, how about let's go with This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. And we'll be back with, it depends on the raccoons.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
For $1, what tool is used to hammer a nail? Is it A, a hammer, B, a nail, C...
B, nail. Final answer.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. And, that's kind of how our morning's been going. What can I tell you?
I chose this rejoining for a reason. We're still on Full Talk Radio, man.
Well, we wandered into a segment I'm going to refer to as "You need to go check on that." And we've kind of broken into some honesty here. There's a whole lot of things that periodically you just need to go check on. You got a 3-year-old and it got quiet. You better go check. You got a spouse or a significant other that likes to tinker and it got quiet. You need to go check. There's that stain on the ceiling. You need to go check. Better yet, there's that weird little sound coming from insert location here. You need to go check.
That's just the raccoons working.
So many of. And, one of our more popular stories is Joe began I named it Critter Wars for him. But poor Joe just haplessly battled against squirrels at his home for years. And every time he thought he got a little upper hand on them, I'd come visit and walk around and go, They're getting in there. They're getting in there. They're getting in there. They're getting in there. They're selling condos over here on this end of your house, and they got and bless his heart, Jay Hill helped him out from Big M Roofing and came out and put a new roof on his house, which amazingly actually solved the rest of the squirrel issues. And as I love to point out, for a time. Because, if it's cold outside, they want to move inside with us. And it happens. And this is one of those odd things where, if something is not right, my favorite one, if you got to wiggle the handle on the toilet, I'm going to go right there. Yeah, I went there, guys. They started dying laughing. All right, I work in commercial maintenance a lot. I work with a lot of medical facilities, and there are a lot of bathrooms in my sojourn through the week.
You'd only hope so.
It was just there's a limit to some of these things, and this is going to be in the why you got to go check department. Walking through, of course, somebody says, "Hey, I live in Studio B over here, and my toilet's not flushing good." And you go in there and you check. All right, guys, flappers are like $2.
Yes.
Again, a very inexpensive part, and this is something virtually anybody can replace. It is just two little loops right there on the side of the stem standing up, and the flapper closes, and the little chain keeps it from falling off. Guys, that's all there is to it. That is all there is to it. If you are constantly having to go jiggle the handle or hold the handle down to flush the toilet, please go visit your local hardware store. And I'm going to be mean for a minute and say, put a crowbar in your wallet and go get a $2 flapper and solve and stop the madness.
Or handle.
You and I have on more than one occasion gone, and we found your problem. Your problem is the handle's 47 years old, and that little nut on the inside has fallen off, and now the handle just rattles around. These are very simple DIY projects. There are instructions on the box, and I am sure there are plenty of YouTube videos.
Allan, don't incentivize me. I'm bound to do something wrong.
Well, this is why you have me and Bobby on speed dial.
So step one, grab a Sawzall.
It's DIY. Destroy it yourself.
And pipe wrench to change the flapper.
All right, well, I do have to confess, I have used a Sawzall to replace a toilet seat.
Of course.
Yeah, those folks.
Of course you have.
Oh, yes.
I will all right. Bobby's giggling, but I'll tell. All right, I'll just tell the story for Bobby at this point, and go. In some of these, again, older buildings. Mm-hmm. Today we have these beautiful nylon fittings that you can finger tighten them. They go on beautiful, and they don't rust.
No,
they do not become solid pieces of metal. And you get into some buildings, don't we, Bobby?
Yes.
And you go back into that part of the building that's been there since 1947, and you find that bathroom, and and you start doing things like maybe it needs a new fluid master.
Yes.
Because when you open the back of the toilet and you see the old ball cock,
right,
on the metal wire, the big floaty thing, that usually by now is about half deflated.
Right.
It looks kind of like a crumpled up football at this point. It's like, all right, this can be rebuilt for $25.
Yes.
Put a new flapper, put in a new. Now, I will freely confess, putting in a new fluid master, maybe you want somebody that's done this before to do this, because it's not horribly complicated, but it is a little messy.
Right.
And it's uncomfortable because you do have to basically get behind and beside the toilet to get that done. But on one of these jobs, we go in and it's
Turn your water off.
Yeah. turn
Before
that
you
shut
start.
off before you undo that feeder. And this had like a hand-cut copper pipe bent into the shape to, like, oh, dear Lord. So we went and bought the appropriate connector of that little, that's actually designed to go, up in there. And we're working on this, and it hasn't leaked or anything. So, I mean, it's, just perfectly good. And actually, it was a much older brand that didn't exist anymore. So it was really, quite nice. So we're working, we're working on it. But then we go to change out the toilet seat.
He's already left.
And, of course, you reach up underneath there and you're feeling it's like, it was like a rusticle.
Yes. A build up.
Like a stalactite. It was solid and it was metal. And, so you actually got down there and, looked up in there, and it was just like, oh, this ain't happening. So,
I thought you said tree branches are widow makers. Rusticles are equally widow makers.
If you got down there and got stuck, none of the guys I was with are going to get me up. So they'd have left me there, trust me. So, so here we are with a really thin metal blade for a Sawzall. Mm-hmm. We actually got the really long one, the 7-inch blade, and eased it. We kind of worked on the toilet seat enough to kind of get it up enough to where we could ease that under there, and we had to cut through the bolts
to get it off. Had to cut through to get it off.
It wasn't gonna budge.
No,
there was no tool. That pipe wrench wasn't going to fit under there, Bobby. It was not going to happen. So we had to get up underneath there. And, of course, somebody's kind of like, you're walking out of the bathroom with a Sawzall, and one of the guys that work for the hotel is kind of like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. And I was kind of like, never mind. I'm not even going to try to explain.
I will tell you if you want to know.
I looked at him and said, I offered to show him. He's like, no, I ain't going in there. You came out with a chainsaw. I'm not going in there. So, but yeah, these things were just completely rusted into place. And, we gently, carefully got eased up in there and got the blade up underneath there and actually managed to get the seat cut off. And I've actually run into that in one or two older houses, even here in Memphis. I ran into it. Oddly, I ran into that a lot in Vicksburg.
Plenty.
Well, there's a lot of turn-of-the-century homes. And they, they used metal, and they didn't have the plastic coatings and all the wonderful, new tools we have today. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get some of these things done. So it's just amazing what you can run into, or what will complicate a simple job. Really, this was simple. It was a simple thing. Should have taken 10 minutes. Now we're 2 hours and we're power tools. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there are going, yep.
And all the replacement parts, no tools. Hand tight.
Back, especially around 1905, there was some poor guy down there, with the big wings on the wing nut, swinging that thing around and getting it tightened up in there. Alrighty, well, this is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis, and we'll be back with a little more of You Probably Need to Go Check on That.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Oh, I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite operational when your friends arrive.
News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis.
I love it when my cousin drops by.
No, that's why Joe isn't here. The deflector shield locked him out.
Man, we are getting some serious maxitude today. I'm loving this. All right. Well, this is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis. And we've been talking about You Probably Need to Go Check on That. And I think we've covered critters, leaks, trees.
Fill in the blank.
Stuff that could fall on your house. And
Stuff that could kill you. Bears,
things that could kill you. The facts that Max does not need to be given access to a Sawzall ever again. I'm gonna look at Scott a little bit and go you need to go check on that department of, Scott, you've got a theater background.
I do.
And you and Max both have built sets and that kind of stuff. So, you've held a hammer before.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
I had a really good teacher taught us how to use most of the stuff to help build the sets that we worked on.
Okay. And, this is when I'm going to look at Bobby and go, sets are fine, but, they only got to work for 3 weeks. This stuff Bobby and I got to build, we're in somebody else's 30 years of stupid 20 years from now. So you can believe this guy actually put all these L brackets on this? And you're like,
what do you mean houses have to function for more than 3 weeks?
You do the dance and song, and then you're out.
Yeah. That's why so many people are living in yurts these days. You just knock them down.
I thought that was the sound you made when they fell on you. Just saying, what can I say? All right, well, as people ease into the world, into my world, into Bobby's world, you begin to discover that a lot of things are inconvenient or messy, but not necessarily difficult.
Right. There's a lot of little projects that we're doing, or like if you and I are on the same site, if I'm not super familiar with it, I'll come to you because you have the knowledge and I'm still learning the pieces, and I'll go, here's the problem. Is this what I do? And then you look at me for a minute, and if I'm right, you go, yeah, you do that. And if I'm wrong, you go, well, if you want to die.
I think that's an actual quote.
I like my sentences beginning that way.
Well, if you want your life to end, that's a wonderful idea. And I'm going to start with small things. Look at Bobby and say, changing air filters, making sure the drip pan is clean. These are just little tiny things that just make your life more convenient.
Yes, and it's all about if you're going to do anything, if you don't have any knowledge of it or you're not familiar, ask questions. I had a gentleman working with me. We was doing some electrical.
Mm-hmm.
We were installing exit lights. So I had to go pick up material. And our boss was there with him. He asked him, can you do this? Oh, sure, this is easy. I can do that. It's just 2 wires. So as I was coming
those
back.
Those are famous last words.
As I was coming back, the boss said, well, I got him putting the lights around there. So you go around and make sure we get them all up. I said, okay, I got you. By the time I turned the corner, boom! I'm like, what is that? He's like, I don't know. I guess I touched something. I said, man, do you have any idea what you're doing? He said, well, it's my first time. I said, why did you tell him you know how to do it?
Well,
2 wires became thousands of dollars in medical bills.
And that is where people get intimidated. And I'll freely admit, you walk into one of the giant big box stores, just walk down the aisle for paint or just caulk. And Bobby and I started laughing because there's got to be what, Bobby? 200 types of caulk?
Oh, it's caulks for everything.
There's just aisles and aisles and aisles and tubes and things and colors and brands, and
yes.
You have no idea. You have no idea. Now, I look at Scott and I'm going, now, 6 weeks later, after somebody went, that's what we use for this and that's what we use for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 6 weeks later, you go down the aisle and you're like going, tourist, contractor. This is what I'm looking for right here. And then the aisle slowly begins to make more sense to you.
It does, yeah.
And I always like to tell people, do things that build your confidence too. If you can, and I'm going to pick on the dinky toilet handle, just jiggle the handle. No, just go get a flapper. Just get I'm not going to give away a brand, but I'm going to say, get that one. It's $2.19 and it's red. It fits everything on the planet. It'll work. pretty close, unless you got some kind of really off-brand, fancy schmancy toilet or something.
How about a Japanese toilet?
Most of them use a standard flapper, thank goodness. Now, most of your Japanese toilets also come with instructions, Wi-Fi, and are transformers.
Are they translated, though?
Well,
is that where they need to give me a call?
Well, see, they give you a call, or they can start breaking out their smartphone and going to the translate version.
But there's no fun in that. Why do that when you can call a Japanese scholar?
Well, you know, it suddenly justifies a lot of that study. It's kind of like, well, why every time I try to go in my bathroom does a red light begin blinking? You're like, oh. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, in the U.S., you have to understand, in Japan, the toiletry is an entire category unto itself.
It sings to you.
They sing, they warm, they heat, they bathe, they coddle, they test. There's even medical ones that will let you know everything you didn't want to know about yourself.
And if it says, go chui kudasai, run away immediately, because that means be careful.
Oh, why would a toilet say be careful?
Futuristic toilets. Do I look like the professional here? I'm just kind of saying stuff.
If I walked into a bathroom and the toilet is going, be careful, I'm running. I don't want to know what's happening.
It's gained self-awareness. That's the only possible explanation.
It's a chili cook-off. I don't know. There had to be a horrible food reference in here somewhere. So
and it was tied in with toilet humor, in honor of Joe.
Absolutely. And I will freely confess, I have friends with newer appliances than I have, and one of them has a dryer that is shockingly happy about itself. It gets done drying, and it like goes into a concerto. It is like ode to spring. All of a sudden, I'm like, you just got done drying. All I need is, I'm done.
This is an odd digression for Handyman Get Started.
Handyman Gets Started. Dryer does a Wagner opus. That's.
Hey, you're the one that had a bathroom screaming, look out, be careful. So.
I don't want that one.
As the rest of us all went, no, I'm not going in there. Yeah, Bobby, could you imagine walking into a bathroom and he goes, thank goodness you're here.
Can you help? My arm is broken.
Now, I would like one that went, those are paper towels. Move away from the paper towels. So it happens. I'm going to say one thing about toilets. Please flush appropriately. Because really, you got to go check on that category. Oh, yeah. Way too much of that this week in my life. I have pulled way too many paper towels out of places where there don't need to be paper towels, including air handling rooms, from air handling rooms to toilets.
I thought you pulled out a bed sheet too.
That is the largest thing I've ever actually gotten out of somebody's exit water system. The largest thing we ever found was indeed an entire bed sheet.
Was it fitted or flat?
It was a flat, thank goodness.
What was its thread count?
We would have never got that fitted out there.
That explains why it was hard to come out.
No, it was domestic. Yeah, it was domestic cotton. Because we're going to tell that story. All right, we go into the clean out. We're trying to get through there, and we keep hitting this blockage. So we put the little alien grabber tool on the end of it. We get down there. We feel it bunch up. So we start pulling and fussing and cussing and carrying on. And we're pulling and we're pulling. And we're finally making some progress. And we finally get it to where it comes out the end. And we're all sitting there staring at it. And we knew what it was. But we're just sitting there looking at it because your brain refused to admit what you were dragging out of this poor pipe. And I'm like, I think that's a sheet. And the other guy's like, no, why? How would there be a sheet in the plumbing? And I'm like, I honestly don't know.
We're humans, folks. We find a way.
Well, I had a theory about that. I figured that was the world's worst escape plan. They throw the sheet out the window and climb down it.
So it's like the B-movie version of the Shawshank Redemption?
Yes. So we ended up having to tie a piece of rebar to this thing and turn, pull, turn, pull, turn, pull. And after like 30 minutes of this, I mean, this was like 3 guys completely exhausted. We are not going to the gym tomorrow type exercise. This thing finally gives way, pops out of there. And then off in the distance, you just hear water just happily running rampantly. And we honestly, we have a regular size sheet. Wow. And it's just like, don't do this.
What is even...
I don't even know how it got down there.
I can't even think of the motivation.
Because I know it didn't come out of a washing machine. I mean, maybe a sock could get sucked down a washing machine, but this was like somebody's effort. You'd have to like roll it up and send it down a little at a time. And I'm just like, that was more effort than worth. And I'm sure somewhere 10 years ago, somebody giggled and went, wait till you get this out of here.
That's why the toilet said, be careful.
Yeah. Well.
It all ties back together. You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know. See, the day that room starts talking to me, it's just, Max, it's your fault. That's going to be your fault.
Hey, I want the room to be self-aware. That's my kind of fun.
There is something wrong with you, Max. All right.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a episode of Tool Talk Radio.
It's been something.
It's been something with my friends Bobby and Scott. Max turned loose from behind the glass.
Get me back in the glass. That's why Joe keeps me there.
I think there's a reason we kept you behind the glass, but we'll find out. So this was Tool Talk Radio. We were broadcast from the Brown Refrigeration Studios at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Everybody get out there and have a great day.